Heads! Bam! 6. Welcome back to the Mr. Patrick Show. I swear to you, I shuffled the deck like 8 times before I turned on the camera tonight. I do not understand why I keep pulling out an inordinate number of aces, court cards, and jokers. Alright, you guys, this is finally it. It's the pumpkin carving video! And in case you failed to notice, I bought 2 pumpkins this year, a small one and a smaller one, and I carved them tonight. This is kind of a how-to. I guess you could consider it a how-to, but it's also just fun carving pumpkins with my friends. So let's get right to it! Okay, so in days of old, the first thing that you would do is put newspaper down on the table, except newspapers don't exist anymore. So I recommend you use paper bags. Okay, so bam, and bam! Alright, so I'm going to do 2 jack-o'-lanterns for you. I plan to do like really classic jack-o'-lantern, and then we're going to try a fancier technique with the second one. Alrighty. Now, of course, you must examine your pumpkin first to determine what is the best place to put the face. So I've got the most area right here, so that's going to be the face. Now, when you're cutting into the top, do not make it roughly circular, because then it's hard to figure out how it goes back on. So I usually make mine a pretty odd shape. I don't know if you can see the shape of that, but it's a weird shape, so I know exactly how it's going to fit back on. I watched The Amazing Spiderman last night. Oh my god, it was the worst movie I've ever seen. I was so disappointed. And the plot was really dumb, and the story was told really badly, and they used way too much CGI. Not everybody is like this super creative genius, and that should not prevent you from having fun carving your pumpkin at Halloween. It is perfectly acceptable to do the old triangular eyes with the mouth with the 3 teeth. We'll see it in a second. The mouth can be really tricky, so cut it out in sections. He's starting to look spooky! Spooky! Now, to make the eyes and the mouth look a little bigger and let out a little more light, we're gonna angle our knife in and bevel the insides. So if you can see what I'm doing, I'm just beveling it so that, take your time with this, it's not a race. Of course, you can do that with the mouth too. As always, be careful, you don't want to mess up the teeth. Say cheese! So there you go, Jack-o'-lantern classic. Wasn't too difficult, and it still looks spooky! Alright, so for further now, I'm gonna try something I've never tried before. It's a technique that Kate was telling me about on the phone, where you do not cut all the way through, but you just peel away the outer layers and leave the inner layers, and they let through light and it glows eerily. We're gonna give it a try, and I could totally screw it up. Peter Parker gets bitten by a spider and has his powers like an hour later. It only takes him about 10 minutes to learn how to master his new powers. And then he like instantly turns into a douchebag. They also made Peter Parker a skater dude. I am sorry. Uncle Ben's only purpose in the movie is to dispense wisdom and then die. Literally the only lines out of his mouth are like the dispensing of wisdom, and then he's like walking around the street like an idiot, looking for Peter, sees a guy drop a gun on the street and runs for the gun. What are you doing, Uncle Ben? First of all, you don't know who he is. That's not your gun. What are you doing? And then he gets himself killed. It's totally not Peter's fault in this movie, which is also stupid. So Dr. Connors takes this potion that turns him into a lizard man, which is really only a problem because he's running around rampaging and attacking the city. Except when the plot needs him to behave differently and suddenly he can speak perfect English, planting bombs and using detonators. It's like, okay, which is he? Is he a crazy monster or is he just a scientist that looks like a lizard? Peter's love interest is not only the daughter of the police chief, but just happens to work at the laboratory where he gets bitten by a spider. And even though they're both science nerds and go to the same school, he doesn't realize that she works there. How would he not know that? Even worse, there's no reason for her to work there because he didn't go there to see her. He's just going there out of curiosity for a completely different reason and runs into her. And the only reason for him to run into her there is just to have a little bit of dialogue that advances the plot once more. YouTube charged me $10 for that movie. Gwen Stacy, that was her name. Forgot it. I think probably the dumbest scene of the movie has got to be like Spider-Man is out on the street and he's seen a bunch of like small little lizards that are like crawling around and they're like heading toward the sewers. Like, oh yeah, all of those wild lizard species that we know are indigenous to Manhattan Island. And even if there were wild lizards in New York City, which there are not, but even if there were, why the hell are they all migrating into the sewers like, we sense that we have a human king. And then nothing even happens with those lizards. There's no point in even showing that. It's not like Lizard Man commands them at some point to do his bidding, because it doesn't. It's just stupid. I've gone about as deep as I can into that mouth, and it still might be too thick, so I'm gonna see if I can work it from the inside. Oh, there you go. That is plenty bright for me, and I'm happy about that because I feel like if I were to take this even a little bit further, I would probably wreck the whole thing. So, alright, let's give these guys the final test. Ooh, I don't know. I think Pumpkin Classic still got the upper hand. Alright, everybody, there you go. You got Jack-O-Lantern Classic and Jack-O-Lantern Post Modern Art Neveau. I'd have to say the old classic is really still the way to go because it's a lot less trouble and it's still cool and it's still effective. Jack-O-Lantern Post Modern Art Neveau has a lot of drawbacks. First you have to make this like giant oxygen hole in the back. If you intend to use a candle, it's a lot more work, it takes a lot more patience, it's a lot more dangerous, and then when you're done, it's not nearly as bright and glowy and therefore not nearly as spooky. However, in ordinary room light, like you might have at your Halloween party, this actually looks a lot cooler. But at the end of the video, I'm happy with both my jack-o'-lanterns, and I hope that this helped inspire you to make a cool one of your own for this Halloween. Woo! Breaking news! Today I received a letter from Hornetroid. Dearest Joseph, I sincerely apologize for any grief my unexplained departure may have caused you, but last Wednesday while you were at school, I received word from my sister that her dear mother had taken ill. At Velmatron's urging, I left immediately for Thoraxid. My journey was a treacherous one, but upon my arrival, I was delighted to find Mother on the mend. Dr. Faride will be discharging her tomorrow. Whilst visiting Mother here at Antron General, I happened upon an old classmate from Robot School by the name of Hornetrina. Sometime after I left Thoraxid back in 3652, she enrolled in nursing school. Last night we had dinner together, and I do confess I may be in love. I've arranged to extend my stay here on Thoraxid for another week in order to further court Hornetrina. Should I find, as I pray, she reciprocates my affection, my intention is to propose marriage. I do hope this letter finds you well, old chum, and I wish you all the best. Please don't be sad that we have parted ways, for this is the unpredictable nature of life. Do take care, and I shall write again as soon as possible. Love, always, Hornetroid. Hornetroid was never more eloquent than when taking pen to paper.